Hi guys, welcome back to Cash University. So today we're going to talk about the time frames. What are each time frames used for? So we always start from the higher time frame, especially if you're looking at the chart for this first, if you're looking at this pair for the first time. For example, right now I'm looking at near protocol. Let's say I've never looked at this project before. I would start on the monthly time frame and see how these candles are moving. You know what I'm saying? This is just a one look chart just to see what's going on. You know what I'm saying? And just see what the trend of the market is on the monthly time frame. Now I would then go down to the weekly time frame and see how the weekly time frames are looking, how the candles are closing. You know what I'm saying? Just a one look chart. That's it. So as you can see on the monthly time frame, it's in an uptrend. So what I'm gonna do now is go down to the daily time frame. So the monthly and the weekly, it's just a one look chart. That's it, just to see what's going on, how these candles are closing. Now I'll go down to the daily, and this is where I'll start to mark up my charts. Right? You see the monthly and the weekly, it's clean. I don't really have nothing on it. You see what I'm saying? Only thing I have is the price where I entered the my position. Now that's on the weekly. So the daily is where I would like start to draw up my trend lines, draw up my like support and resistance. And you know what I'm saying? Do some technical analysis, do some real analysis. Look at the candlestick, how the candlesticks are closing. You know what I'm saying? So right here you can see I don't really have the trend line set up or anything, but I have like a few markups on it. Right. Overall, the market is in an uptrend, so I was just, drawing these up. This product, it don't really have much data because it came out in 2020, so it don't really have much data. So I don't really need to do much on it because I see it's in an uptrend already. So what I do is just do the technical analysis. Then I would go down to the H4 time frame, right? And matter of fact, I would also draw my fibs on the daily time frame too. Now I would then go down to the lower time frame, right? To the H4 time frame and see where I could get some more moves, like do some technical analysis, see the structure, see the market structure, see the candlestick patterns, see the how the setup, how everything is being set up. You know what I'm saying? Like right here, you can see I found the last let's say I found a place where price like was like let's say you were on the daily and price started to retrace. I would go down to the lower time frame to see if price like how price is reacting. I would do more analysis on the H4 time frame. I could catch more trade entries on the H4 time frame. Not really more trade entries, but I would see more trade opportunities on the H4 time frame. Now, once I'm finished with I could draw my trend line. Look, I have my trend line also on the H4 time frame right here. Got a trend line right there. Have a little trend line right there. I have my what you call it? This was a level of support right here turned into a resistance. It's more in depth. I could get more in depth on what I'm looking at or what I'm looking to see on the H4 time frame. Then I will go down to the H1 time frame. See, it's the same thing. Do more analysis. The H4 is the most trusted, so that's where I really stay. And then sometimes I go down to the H1 if I want to catch smaller moves, right? And I'll draw my fib. Same thing I do on the H4, I'll do the same thing on the H1. Now, when it comes to the lower time frames, that's where I look to get my entries. That's where I draw my fibs. I draw my I draw my fibs, and I just wait. I just wait patiently to like get my entries. That's where I look for my entries on the M30, on the M15, and I don't really use the M5, but you could get your entries on the M5, right? So that's just a breakdown of what you do on each time frame. So on the monthly and the weekly, it's just a one look. Take a quick look to see what's going on. How the candles are like, not even how the candles are, just see the overall trend of the market. Then you go down to the daily, see how the candles are closing, what's the market structure, what is like, stuff like that. And then the H4, see the market structure, you draw your trend line, you draw your fibs, all that stuff you want to do, you do that on the H4, but don't overcrowd your chart now. Then you go down to the H1, same thing, but your M30 and your M15 and maybe your M5, that's where you get your entries, right? You could get a lot of entries on those smaller time frames for like the if you see a move on the bigger time frame, the entries should be on the smaller time frame. If you see a move on the H4 H4 time frame, all right, rewind. If you see a move on the daily time frame, you get your entry on the H1. If you see a move on the M30, if you see a move on the H4 time frame, you get your entry. If you see a move on the H4 time frame, you get your entry on the M30. Remember that. Don't enter your trade on the H4. Get your entry on the M30. Now, if you see a move on the H1 time frame, you get your entry on the M15. And if you want to be risky, if you're a scalper, if you see a move on the M30, you get your entry on the M5. So that's all it is you need to know about each time frame.